that 7th MotoGP world title. The travel on once again, Lewis, and it's clear he's going to take some stopping.
He generally doesn't blink in this kind of situation when he's taken pole position, when he's dominated the sprint in the manner he did yesterday. Many expect Marc Marquez to have the speed to win this Hungarian Grand Prix today. Does he have the physicality to win it? That perhaps is the big question mark hanging over the reigning world champion today. Of course, he has to go 26 laps and he's going to have to listen to his body. Potentially mistakes could creep in if fatigue takes over for Marc Marquez, so might not be the most comfortable ride he's ever had at the front of a Grand Prix, but Marc Marquez certainly will take some dislodging from the front of the race.
This is him then launching away from that 76 MotoGP pole position. He said he was full focus. Nobody was going to get the better of Marquez on the brakes into that tricky, tight first right-hander, and that was it. Marc Marquez getting the whole shots. Within 2 or 3 laps, he was over 2 seconds clear of Pedro Acosta. And out of the final corner, he powers the factory Ducati. 18 sprint wins now, his 3rd of 2026. Not that there was any doubt about whether Marc Marquez, when close to full fitness, was going to be putting the factory Ducati back on the top step on sprint Saturdays. Well, any of those doubts were quashed, weren't they, emphatically yesterday by the Spanish superstar, who was always so good. 6 anti-clockwise circuits on the MotoGP calendar: Austin, here in Hungary, Sachsenring, Aragon, Phillip Island and Valencia, where Marc Marquez has basically made those circuits his own. 73 Grand Prix wins in the Premier class. Marc has collected 34 of those, almost 47%, nigh on half, have been on anti-clockwise layouts. 9 wins at the Sachsenring, 7 wins at Aragon, 7 wins at Austin. Can he make it back-to-back wins in Balaton?
Yep, there you can see at the 57 Grand Prix he started on anti-clockwise circuits, he's won, as Matt mentioned, 34 of those. 59% winning rate around anti-clockwise circuits. The first sector is almost entirely left, the first corner is right, and then you're left through 2, 3 and 4. And generally there, it's where Marc Marquez has been doing so much damage through the weekend. And it was by the end of that first sector of the sprint yesterday where Pedro Acosta already recognised that he wasn't going to be able to beat the world champion.
Well, while he fights his way back to full fitness after that recent double surgery to repair the damaged right foot he suffered from that horrible sprint high side in Le Mans, and then to correct the screw that was compressing on the nerve, the radial nerve in his right arm, Marc Marquez was just untouchable, wasn't he, yesterday? Eco mode on Friday as he built himself into the weekend. Super sport mode yesterday to get himself to the sprint. He's reckoning he's going to need sport mode here this afternoon. Great start, wasn't it, by Marco Bezzecchi. Look at the factory Prix ride, the world championship leader making big progress. A lightning launch off the line once again by the factory Prix. He's on that road too with Digia and Pecco Bagnaia on the Ducati GP26s. He just motors past a pair of those. And he's onto the inside of Fermin Aldeguer. This was a crucial move, this by Bez, because clearly behind him, he admitted himself, Aldeguer in particular had the better speed on the Gresini Ducati, but Aldeguer around this tight twisty layout just could not find a way through. That could be a really important 7 points in the final reckoning, couldn't it, for Marco Bezzecchi, just his 2nd sprint medal of the season. But he, as he attacked so brilliantly last weekend in Mugello, Lewis, in the Grand Prix, he defended quite impeccably yesterday, because it was Aldeguer and Ralph Hernandez that gave him a real good run for his money.
Yeah, for all the mistakes that Bezzecchi has made in sprints this year, he had to be mistake-free yesterday if he was going to take top spot or take a place on the podium at least yesterday. 3rd is indeed where he finished. 20 points now his advantage over Jorge Martin, who did make the odd mistake in the sprint yesterday and has also already made a mistake on this Grand Prix Sunday as Martin. This was yesterday when he found himself on the middle of the 3rd row, had a sprint-long battle with Diogo Moreira. It's fair to say Moreira, who's a row behind him. Martin in the end would win that battle despite a trip through the escape road at the chicane at turns 9 and 10. This was it on the first lap of the race as he tried to get at the inside of Moreira, straight across the escape road, had to drop a second, which certainly did stop him in his tracks. Got the move done eventually on the number 11, who made so many more admirers yesterday than Moreira in the Tito sprint. He is a grown force in MotoGP. In the end, it was 6th place for Jorge Martin. Far from a disaster in the sprint, but as mentioned, he's already started this Grand Prix Sunday with a fall in warm-up.
Not a disgrace. A 6th place in the sprint was still his lowest sprint finish of 2026 so far. He has to get his qualifying sorted out, doesn't he, Jorge Martin? 3rd row in 5 of the last 6 Grand Prix. It was a pretty good fight yesterday between the two Prima Pramac Yamahas. Good buddies, of course. Top up Raz Gatlioglu winning out in 13th place, just under his teammate Jack Miller. I'd like to say the Aussie joins Jack right now. Jack and Jack, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to everybody. Great to be joined by Jack ahead of this one. A top job on Friday to make what was going to be a challenging weekend that little bit easier. It looks as though it's going to be, once again, a big pack fight between you and the other Yamahas. What's going to be key to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically part of the course this year. We're racing each other, but no, thankfully yesterday we were able to finish with a couple other manufacturers behind us as well. So I mean, get away to a decent start. Like you said, job was done on Friday. We're happy with making it straight through. Makes the weekend a lot easier. We'll see what we can do now. Sort of trying to toss up what we do with the tyres. Kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you know what I mean. But no, looking forward to a long, tight, technical, hard to pass track. So getting away off the line is going to be cool.
Those following your social media will have seen that you're not the only Miller with some talent in the family. Little daughter Pip was singing Frozen all throughout the night. When you try and bury your head beneath the bubble, you're just going to have Let It Go ringing throughout your head.
Yeah. Got a few different tunes to drown it out. No, she definitely likes to put on a bit of a performance, much like someone else on there.
Good luck today, Jack.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thanks as always to Jack Miller. Jack and Jack's down there on the grid. It was an equal best sprint so far this season for the Australian. As I said, probably expecting another Inter Iwata factory battle this afternoon. It was a shocker yesterday for the factory Yamaha team. Fabio Quartararo's worst sprint finish since Catalonia 3 years ago. There's been a couple of occasions previously where Quartararo's finished low. Alex Rins had his worst ever sprint. Wakey wakey is the message as Pedro Acosta shouts out to his factory KTM crew. We hope to sing himself hoarse with his first ever MotoGP celebrations in about an hour and a quarter's time. 26 MotoGP podiums now for Acosta, 14 in sprints, 12 in Grand Prix, but still seeking that first win on a main race day Sunday.
Does he have the speed? Does he have the potential to win this Grand Prix? Is it really going to be in his control? Is Pedro going to have to rely on a mistake or potentially some late race fatigue from Marc Marquez to get on terms? The best opportunity that Pedro clearly will have today to try and deny Marc Marquez a century of Grand Prix wins in all classes is at the start of the Grand Prix. Surely Pedro is going to have to take some risks if he gets a good enough start to get alongside Marc Marquez into that first corner. Track position is key around this Balaton Park circuit.
Diogo Moreira, the reigning Moto2 world champion, pole position in Moto2 right here in Balaton last year. Here's the star already starting to shine very bright in the MotoGP World Championship this year. The 22-year-old Brazilian, 7th yesterday in the sprint. A sprint so far of the campaign for the pro Honda LCR rider. And just as he did last weekend over in Mugello, he was by far the standout Honda rider on the MotoGP grid. Had a couple of top 10s last time out, didn't he? In Mugello, 10th in the sprint, just missing out on the point scoring place. But an excellent ride into the top 10 in the main Grand Prix. Big things, a big future lies ahead for the Brazilian.
Well, we saw in Mugello a week ago when he got himself up into 3rd on the first lap of the sprint. The floor then got pulled out from underneath him and he plummeted down the order later on in the sprint. There were no signs of that yesterday. He very much kept Jorge Martin here on screen in sight at the end of the sprint. Moreira coming across the line for his best Saturday result so far in 7th place. This is on the back of a double top 10 in Mugello last weekend, and he is once again Honda's best bet of a result here this afternoon.
What about Jorge Martin? 4 double podiums so far this season, including last time out in what was a truly unforgettable weekend for Aprilia. What a weekend they had in Mugello, setting a new all-time top speed record, a new all-time lap record. The first ever Grand Prix victory in Mugello, first ever front row lockout. A weekend that Aprilia and Marco Bezzecchi in particular are not going to forget. Sprint result yesterday, 13th out of 4 top-ranked Bazgatlioglu was his best sprint finish. He was the top Yamaha over the line in 13th place, just over 14 seconds back of Marc Marquez at the checker flag. So once again, the Yamaha's giving him about a second a lap compared to the front-running pace. And Ralph Fernandez, when he was close but no cigar in that 13-lap sprint yesterday. Did all he could to try and pressure Marco Bezzecchi into a mistake, but just coming up short in 4th place. As that young Ralph Fernandez fan was got a meet and greet yesterday with his hero. Got a special set of gloves. I think the gloves that Ralph Fernandez was wearing in the opening Grand Prix of the season in Buram. A cherished memento for that young fan.
I assume those Australian Galicias are not for him, but either way, he got the experience of a lifetime yesterday to meet Ralph Fernandez. Ralph Fernandez certainly enjoying that support in a key phase of Ralph Fernandez's season as he tries to secure a place in the grid for next season. Taking advantage yesterday of that battle ahead of him between Bezzecchi and Fermin Aldeguer. Aldeguer losing the front momentarily through the chicane of 9 and 10, which allowed Fernandez to secure that 4th place.
Fabio Quartararo is having a miserable time right now, isn't he, on the factory Yamaha. I think 2026 should end soon enough for the 27-year-old Frenchman, struggling down to 17th place yesterday in that sprint. 18th he was over the line in the Italian Grand Prix last weekend. His equal worst finish in the MotoGP World Championship. 3rd time this year Quartararo has finished outside of the point scoring places. He's the only rider that's finished all 8 sprints and 7 Grand Prix so far this season, but as a front-running force, we haven't really seen too much of the 2021 World Champion.
We didn't see a great deal of Pecco Bagnaia yesterday, it's fair to say. So you can take a look at some of the updates and some of the aerodynamic tweaks that they've made on his particular Ducati so far through this season, as they constantly strive to move the game on from a technological point of view. Aprilia certainly pushed them in that respect so far this season. Bagnaia qualified well, 5th on the grid, but he found himself on the wrong side of the racetrack, on the outside of a defensive Fermin Aldeguer, who fought hard to keep Bagnaia behind him, ended up pushing both of them wide, so Bagnaia was already down in the lower reaches of the top 10.
Away, World Championship leader. He does take his 3rd win in a row in this dominant 2026 campaign. Philip Salac on the podium for the 1st time since the Japanese Grand Prix at Motegi in 2024. His first top 3 in 33 starts. Senna Rangers does hold on to 3rd place. A double podium then for Liqui Moly Carnival intact. David Alonso ran out of time. Needed 2 more laps to do the Colombian to make it back-to-back podiums here in Balaton. Top 6 for Holgado and Guevara. Guevara from pole after his long lap drama. Vietti, Lopez, Ferrandi, Valvolino, your top 10. Points for away to Balta, Spanden, Gorberg. Forsato in the point scoring places for the 1st time in 14. Joe Roberts completes your top 15. But that was another big win, another big performance, and another big statement from Manu Gonzalez.
MotoGP team managers, are you watching? How can you ignore this from Manu Gonzalez, who is clearly a much more rounded and complete rider than he was at this point last year when he won so many races in the first part of the season and then dropped out of contention in the second half of the year. He does not look like the kind of rider that's going to give this kind of points advantage up without an almighty fight. His lead now is 49.5 points over Ethan Guevara. Manu Gonzalez demonstrating his Moto2 title credentials and demonstrating why he certainly has earned an opportunity at the very highest level in MotoGP.
300 Moto2 battles now, and Manu Gonzalez has won 9 of them, 3 in a row. Let's get some thoughts from, I'm sure, an ecstatic after a double podium once again for Dynamo Intact. The boss, Jürgen Ling with chat.
Jürgen, what an afternoon. Both riders onto the podium. Senna, a fantastic ride, but Manu in particular, now a hat-trick of Moto2 wins. I'm sure you'd love to have him on your bike again next year, but surely he has to get the promotion up to MotoGP.
In my point of view, yes, but it's not my decision. I just can speak for the team, and I'm super happy. Both did a perfect job. Manu was again impressive, and I was also surprised about Salah that he had the pace, because we thought we expect something else, but not with Salah. But anyway, it was really good race of both. Senna to the end, I think, suffered with the tire a bit, but at the end he managed to the podium. So what can I say? Congrats to the team. Good job of all, and another impressive race.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks Jack, thanks to Dynamo boss Jürgen Ling. I think most of us were quite surprised at just how long Philipp Salah was able to hang in there. Credit to the Czech rider. What a pre-home race boost that is, with the Grand Prix of Czechia in Brno coming up in 2 weeks' time. With a class apart once again was the Manu Gonzalez. 5 podiums in a row now. He's only been off the box once so far this season, which was the 5th place at Austin in Texas, and he's nigh on now 2 wins clear of Guevara in the championship. Superb performance once again. Some great rides in that Grand Prix. Gonzalez, your winner. Salah second. Alonso coming through from 9th to 4th. Career best for Alberto Ferrandez. Credit to him in 9th place. Great ride, a personal best in Moto2. Jose Antonio Rueda. First Moto2 points as well for Tayo Furusato. So plenty of riders have enjoyed their Sunday afternoon here in Balaton.
Chelsea Vietti doesn't look as if he's enjoyed his. Down in 7th place once again. Damage was done for Chelsea Vietti on Saturday afternoon when he qualified down in 12th. 7th for him, certainly not enough in terms of his championship prospects at the moment, as he falls now 52.5 points behind Manu Gonzalez, who is in the form of his Grand Prix career.
No doubt, Manu is the man in Moto2 right now, isn't he? This is not new territory. He did so much of the front running in 2025 before he got reeled in by Diogo Moreira's pull into the second half of the season. But for the first time since his home Grand Prix in Brno last year, Joe Roberts was the victor. American Racing find themselves back in Parc Ferme, and that was a heck of a ride, wasn't it, by Philipp Salah? Superb performance. Led for so much of the early part of the Grand Prix. He really did pile the pressure, didn't he, on Manu Gonzalez when he was dropped back to 2nd place. It looks like the Blue Crew Pramac Yamaha of Ethan Guevara has run out of juice late on. 6th place, he will get credited with, but he eventually makes it back to pit lane. 11.1 seconds behind Gonzalez. Confirmation, as mentioned in commentary, first rider to win 3 successive Moto2 races since Fermin Aldeguer went on a winning blitz. He won the last 4 of 2023. The last time any rider in Moto2 had 5 podiums in a row, well, that was Aldeguer in that sensational end to the 2023 campaign. That earned Aldeguer his chance in MotoGP. Is this winning streak, is this great patch going to earn Manu Gonzalez his spurs in MotoGP?
And the way his championship challenge sort of ran out of steam late in 2025, many riders would have struggled to come back from that, to bounce back from losing what was nigh on a 60-point lead at one point over Diogo Moreira, but it seems to have lit a fire under Manu Gonzalez. Add to that the rejection of a place in MotoGP that it would appear Manu Gonzalez has been faced with it in recent weeks and months, and for many riders that would impact them in a negative sense, but it would appear to be Manu Gonzalez channeling it in the right way, channeling it to make himself push harder, to go faster, to be a better all-round rider, and there's very few weaknesses to spot in the Manu Gonzalez armoury at the moment.
I feel this is a bit of payback here in Balaton. He led for the final stages of the Grand Prix here last August before he got passed on the last lap by both Diogo Moreira and your eventual winner David Alonso. Started the Grand Prix here last year, third, finished third. Today from the second row, he takes the victory. Senna Aegis, oh well, a very nice pre-21st birthday present for the Aussie. Third here in Hungary, and he's with Jack.
Senna, what a brilliant ride. You really had to work for that podium, fending off David late on at such an important point in your career. How important did this podium feel to keep yourself in championship conversation?
Yeah, podium today was important. I would like to have done a little bit more. I was there or thereabouts, and I was staying, but I wasn't catching, and slowly, lap by lap, I was on the limit, and I had a couple of really big moments, and I just tried to hold my pace to the end, and I could see Alonso come in, but it was pretty stressful mentally out there. But yeah, I was nervous going into this weekend. This track doesn't particularly suit me, all the stop-start change of direction, so I kept calm, did my work, did my homework. I'd never been here prior to this weekend, so in third place today, feeling like I had nothing left at the end. I'll take it now, it's time to enjoy it, switch off a little bit, but then, yeah, analyse Bruno, because now I feel like I'm finding my feet. I'm being more constant, and I'm really happy with everything at the moment, so now it's time to enjoy the moment and keep going like this.
Great job today, well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great job. As you remind us there, Senna Aegis was not here last August, was he? For our inaugural Balaton Park Grand Prix, missing the race after an incident on the first lap of the Red Bull Ring in Austria. First time this season he's going to be on the podium celebrations and not standing on the top step. Of course, the winner in Austin, the winner in Jerez. He won't care. Back on the podium, third place for Aegis, keeping himself firmly in the hunt for third overall in the championship. He moves on to 94 points, just 8 now behind Celestino Vietti, and just 11 behind Ethan Guevara in second. He might not be too long into this World Championship campaign, but we might be having a Dynamo Intact 1-2. But with his home race beckoning at Brno in 2 weeks' time, Philipp Salat on the podium here in Balaton. What a ride by the Czech star. He's with Jack.
Philip, what a ride, pushing Manu all the way to the end. The first podium in nearly 2 years, and the perfect way to get everybody excited about trip to Brno in 2 weeks' time.
Man, I have no words, to be honest, you know. Like last year, in the end of the year, I didn't know if I'm going to keep racing because I had no team, and American Racing gave me a chance. Ethan, you know, Abner, they gave me a chance because they saw some potential in me, and we have a good last 4 races, not so lucky in the beginning of the year, but now we can see that when I have a good bike, a good team behind me, it's the best team I've ever been in, I can be in the front. So it was amazing first half, and I think I deserved this because it was really tough time, believe me. I didn't trust myself, you know, I had other problems out of racing, and it was really hard to don't give up, and I didn't. So I want to dedicate this to everyone who is not in a good mood. Keep pushing, and you will arrive. It took me 2 years, it will be not tomorrow, but you're going to be there. See you in Brno, všichni přijďte do Brna, těším se na vás, děkuju.
Great job.
Keep fighting, keep pushing, keep believing. That's the most important message from Philipp Salat. Better days are always ahead, and his day has come today. That was a brilliant ride, the ride of his life, certainly the ride of his Grand Prix career. Start number 135 is just his 5th ever podium finish, and what a home race boost in Brno in 2 weeks' time. He pushed Manu Gonzalez so hard in that Grand Prix of Hungary, but once again the runaway World Championship leader, an unstoppable force in Moto2. He wins the 300th Moto2 battle. Manu Gonzalez with Jack.
Well, Manu, Philip did not make it easy for you out there today, but it's yet another victory. Now a hat-trick of Moto2 wins. What more do MotoGP team managers need to see?
Really, the race was so difficult in every aspect. Physical, riding, condition of grip. Philip surprised me because he was riding so well that I had to adapt and change my riding in some corners. But from the middle of the race, I say, okay, let's go first position and see if I can push. and I had my really good pace. Yeah, 3 wins in a row, it's amazing. It was an objective, but every race I start like it's a new one. Nothing happened in the past. Again with the same work, again with the same push. So let's go to Brno, exactly the same as we come here. For sure, we need some rest, but yeah, I'm so happy because it was a difficult race and we still managed to get P1, so let's keep doing it. Congratulations. Thank you so much to everyone.
Manu Gas operating at full gas right now, isn't he? This was the key race-winning overtake. He got right onto the rear tyre of Salac on the brakes into turn 5, carried all of his momentum then through 6, 7 and 8. And that was the key attack on the brakes into the chicane of 9 and 10. You have to give credit to Salac, who did not give it up with that almighty fight. Well, that's how you celebrate, guys. Look at that, the pair of them with massive stand-up wheelies over the line. Some performance by Manu Gonzalez and Philip Salac to commemorate the 300th Moto2 Grand Prix. He's doing the next 300. As Manu Gonzalez will head, well, the top 2 in that Grand Prix are going to head to the Grand Prix of Czechia. In great spirits, aren't they? Gonzalez with a World Championship lead of almost 50 points. In second place in that Balaton Grand Prix, Philip Salac heading home brimming with confidence after that stunning second.
Nathan Guevara's day today after his brilliant pole position yesterday. Had problems into turn 1 on each of the first 2 laps. One through his own making, one through Alonso Lopez's making. Of course, the long lap penalty that he picked up for the unsafe change of direction off the line. We'd love to know from Philip Salac if he had to shut the throttle off at that stage. Feels like a bit of a harsh one, but certainly consistent from what we've seen earlier in the season back in Austin, Texas. The way the race panned out, ultimately in the end, at the most, that cost Guevara perhaps 1 place.
Yeah, and ultimately it turned into a bit of a lonely Sunday afternoon, didn't it, for Guevara? 1.5 seconds behind Holgado, a mile up the road, 3.5 seconds clear almost of Vietti. He'll have to try and focus on the positives. The main positive of the weekend being that superb 1:40.2 he produced to take pole position here yesterday. But it's on Sunday when it really matters. It's on Sunday when the points and prizes are up for grabs. And collecting all of the last 75 available in the Moto2 World Championship has been Manu Gonzalez. He is going to be desperate to make sure that history does not repeat itself. He is not going to blow it this year. He's not going to fluff his lines. There's no Diogo Moreira hunting him down in 2025, just like there was last year. And victorious today, and those closest behind him were suffering. Guevara 6th, Vietti 7th, and with the clear big winners by a mile today were Lippi, Moly, Dynamo.
American Racing in second place for Philip Salac. How excited must Nathan Buck will be ahead of Brno with home favourite Philip Salac on the form of his career. And of course his teammate Joe Roberts won that race last year. Senna Regis onto the podium in 3rd. But a leap for the delight for Philip Salac, who is reaching new heights in his Moto2 career. As we've already discussed, it's his first podium for the best part of 2 years, a 4th career podium for Salac in Moto2. For Manu Gonzalez, it's a 4th win of 2026. I feel like he is a world champion in waiting on current form. It is going to take something quite special to reel him in from here with a nigh on 50-point lead, but this is just round 8 of 22, and for sure the likes of Guevara, Vietti and Co will fight back in the future. Third place for Senna Regis, who has had a bit of a mixed bag of results. There's only 2 podiums prior to this were wins, but on his first visit to Balaton Park, he leaves with a trophy. Philip Salac getting a massive cheer from the American racing team, and Manu Gonzalez recognising in part for May just how hard he was pushed today. Bring on Brno will be the message for Philip Salac today. Good to see his teammate there. Joe Roberts also waiting to congratulate his teammate. Joe Roberts did take a point today in 15th place. But Manu Gonzalez, as he has been on now 4 occasions this year, far too good. And far too good to be ignored, you feel, from a MotoGP point of view, as Manu Gas reigns supreme once again.
Moto2 race here today in Balaton, and now 3 wins in a row for Manu Gonzalez in what is turning out to be an outstanding 2026 World Championship campaign for the Spanish rider. Double podium for the German-based Dynabolt Intact team, and a great day for those pockets of Czech fans who've come from the neighbouring country here in Hungary to witness Filip Salac, one of their own. No wonder he's got a massive smile on his face. Yeah, taking a big gulp of the Prosecco is Salac. The perfect tonic, the perfect Filip, I guess you could say, as he heads to his home Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. So Gonzalez then now 49.5 points clear in the championship. Big smiles all round from your top 3. Manu Gonzalez, 3 on the spin.
Dominant victory today for Manu Gas. Filip Salac certainly made him wait for it. Had to settle for an equal career best second. Ceneratius third podium of the year in third. Fourth and fifth for Aspar. David Alonso here he did reel in Aegis on the final lap, but he did at least beat his teammate Danny Morgado. Ethan Guevara from pole via a long lap to 6th. Vietti from 12th up to 7th. Lopez 8th ahead of a career best 9th for Alberto Mirandes. Arbolino in 10th over Rueda. Baltas via his own long lap. Van den Gorberg and a first couple of World Championship points for Tayo Furasato. Joe Roberts taking the final World Championship point. So the two, his bike broke down late on. Via crashed out. Munoz and Ortola went down together after a few laps. And Cadet didn't complete the first lap. And Manu Gonzalez now leads the World Championship by 49.5 points, barring something dramatic. He will lead the championship until at least the end of the Dutch TT in Assen. Guevara second, 3 points now ahead of Celestino Vietti, with Ceneratius closing in 4th. Alonso Lopez, he climbs a place. Big move in the championship though. Filip Salac, as you saw there, he climbs 4 places into the top 10. Standings, of course, a Calix lockout of the podium today in the first Bosco in 6th, so the lead now for Calix is 56.5 points. And in the team standings, a Liquimoto Dynabolt Intact GP now over 100 clear of their nearest rivals, Aspar. So once again, Manu Gonzalez just far, far too good. A hat-trick of victories for the runaway World Championship leader. Surely he's earned a place in MotoGP. Well, the current crop of MotoGP stars will be in action next. We begin our countdown to the Hungarian Grand Prix in just a moment.
The first of 3 rounds in a hectic June with Renault and Aston to follow comes from Balaton Park, which sits around an hour's drive from bustling Budapest. Surrounded by the sunny slopes of the Balaton Highlands, picturesque lakeside towns and beaches galore, making a stunning summer holiday destination. Whose destiny is it to be the Sunday hero, though, in Hungary? It's time to race in MotoGP. First on the calendar, the Balaton Park circuit last August in 2025. It first opened its doors a couple of years ago in 2023, about 80 kilometres southwest of Budapest. Very tight and twisty layout. Talk about a contrast from the wide-open high-speed circuits of Catalonia and Mugello. Our most recent visits, tight through turn 1 and 2, opens up through turn 4, good braking opportunity, good overtaking opportunity down into turn 5. The first of 3 chicanes takes you into the tight 9 and 10. Right completed through turn 15 and 16. Turn 1's really hard on the front end, so too is turn 5. 1 and 5, 2 of the best overtaken hotspots around this 4.08-kilometre layout. This was Marc Marquez on his way to a treble here last year on Marco Bezzecchi into that first corner. Well, our second visit to Balaton Park turned out to be an incredible sprint Saturday for reigning world champion Marc Marquez on pole position after a crash in the early part of Q2 yesterday for the 76th time in his MotoGP career. He would eventually go on to dominate the 13-lap event. Drama behind him as Fermin Aldeguer tried to find a way through on the fast-starting Marco Bezzecchi and Ralph Fernandez. But for the 18th time, he ties Jorge Martin's sprint-winning record. Marc Marquez taking his first victory since returning from recent double surgery on his right foot and his right shoulder, and now he's honing in on a double win here in Hungary. Is today the day that the factory Ducati star does win his 100th Grand Prix? He goes from pole position ahead of Pedro Acosta, who was second over the line in yesterday's sprint. Marco Bezzecchi increasing his world championship lead from 17 to 20 points coming into our race day 8 of 2026. Bezzecchi charging his way through from the second row of the grid in 6th place yesterday to claim just his second sprint podium finish of the campaign. Sunny skies, hot conditions, not a lot of breeze about as the world's fastest riders get set to tackle one of the tightest and slowest layouts of the campaign so far. And just like was the big questions of our first visit to Balaton last August, who on earth is going to be able to stop Marc Marquez from rounding out another pole position, sprint win and Grand Prix victory treble? 2/3 of that equation have already been completed by the 33-year-old Spaniard. He led from start to finish with a commanding victory in yesterday's sprint. And quite clearly, despite his pre-weekend assessment being haven't got a chance of winning here on Sunday, well, I'm not quite sure we believe in this. Marc Marquez starts as the clear pre-Grand Prix favourite, which will be lights out and underway in about 14 minutes or so time, in the company of Matt Burt, Lewis Sotheby in the commentary box, Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. Well, he did the business here in Balaton last August. Lewis, pole position, dominated the sprint, leading every lap just as he did yesterday. Won the Grand Prix here last August. It was the last time actually Marc Marquez did claim a clean sweep in a Grand Prix weekend. It was a real platform, launching him to that 7th MotoGP world title. The treble on once again, Lewis, and it's clear he's going to take some stopping.
He generally doesn't blink in this kind of situation when he's taken pole position, when he's dominated the sprint in the manner he did yesterday. Many expect Marc Marquez to have the speed to win this Hungarian Grand Prix today. Does he have the physicality to win it? That perhaps is the big question mark hanging over the reigning world champion today. Of course, he has to go 26 laps and he's going to have to listen to his body. Potentially mistakes could creep in if fatigue takes over for Marc Marquez, so might not be the most comfortable a ride he's ever had at the front of a Grand Prix, but Marc Marquez certainly will take some dislaunching from the front of the race.
This is him then launching away from that 76 MotoGP pole position. He said he was full focused. Nobody was going to get the better of Marquez on the brakes into that tricky, tight first right-hander. And that was it. Marc Marquez getting the whole shot. Within 2 or 3 laps, he was over 2 seconds clear of Pedro Acosta. And out of the final corner, he powers the factory Ducati. 18 sprint wins now, his third of 2026. Not that there was any doubt about whether Marc Marquez, when close to full fitness, was going to be putting the factory Ducati back on the top step on Sprint Saturdays. Well, any of those doubts were quashed, weren't they, emphatically, yesterday by the Spanish superstar, who was always so good. 6 anti-clockwise circuits on the MotoGP calendar: Austin, here in Hungary, Sachsenring, Aragon, Phillip Island and Valencia, where Marc Marquez has basically made those circuits his own. 73 Grand Prix wins in the Premier class. Marc has collected 34 of those, almost 47%, nigh on half have been on anti-clockwise layouts. 9 wins at the Sachsenring, 7 wins at Aragon, 7 wins at Austin. Can he make it back-to-back wins in Balaton?
Yep, there you can see it, the 57 Grand Prix he started on anti-clockwise circuits, he's won, as Matt mentioned, 34 of those. 59% winning rate around anti-clockwise circuits. The first sector is almost entirely left, the first corner is right, and then you're left through 2, 3 and 4. And generally there, it's where Marc Marquez has been doing so much damage through the weekend. And it was by the end of that first sector of the sprint yesterday where Pedro Acosta already recognised that he wasn't going to be able to beat the world champion.
Well, while he fights his way back to full fitness after that recent double surgery to repair the damaged right foot he suffered from that horrible sprint high side in Le Mans, and then to correct the screw that was compressing on the nerve, the radial nerve of his right arm, Marc Marquez was just untouchable, wasn't he, yesterday? Eco mode on Friday, as he built himself into the weekend. Super sport mode yesterday to get himself to the sprint when he reckons he's going to need sport mode here this afternoon. Great start, wasn't it, by Marco Bezzecchi. Look at the factory of Prix, the world championship leader, making big progress. A lightning launch off the line once again by the factory of Prix. He's on that road too with Digia and Pecca Bagnaia on the Ducati GP26s. He just motors past a pair of those, and then he's onto the inside of Fermin Aldeguer. This was a crucial move, this by Bez, because clearly behind him, he admitted himself, Aldeguer in particular had the better speed on the Gresini Ducati, but Aldeguer around this tight, twisted layout just could not find a way through. That could be a really important 7 points in the final reckoning, couldn't it, for Marco Bezzecchi, just his second sprint medal of the season. But he, as he attacked so brilliantly last weekend in Mugello, Lewis, in the Grand Prix, he defended quite impeccably yesterday, because it was Aldeguer and Ralph Hernandez that gave him a real good run for his money.
Yeah, for all the mistakes that Bezzecchi has made in sprints this year, he had to be mistake-free yesterday if he was going to take top spot or take a place on the podium at least yesterday. Third is indeed where he finished. 20 points now his advantage over Jorge Martin, who did make the odd mistake in the sprint yesterday and has also already made a mistake on this Grand Prix Sunday as Martin. This was yesterday when he found himself on the middle of the third row, had a sprint-long battle with Diogo Moreira. It's fair to say Moreira, who's a row behind him. Martin in the end would win that battle despite a trip through the escape road at the chicane at turns 9 and 10. This was it on the first lap of the race, and he tried to get on the inside of Moreira straight across the escape road. Had to drop a second, which certainly did stop him in his tracks. Got the move done eventually on the number 11, who made so many more admirers yesterday than Moreira in the Tito sprint. He is a growing force in MotoGP. In the end, it was 6th place for Jorge Martin. Far from a disaster in the sprint, but as mentioned, he's already started this Grand Prix Sunday with a fall in warm-up.
Not a disgrace. The 6th place in the sprint was still his lowest sprint finish of 2026 so far. He has to get his qualifying sorted out, doesn't he, Jorge Martin? Third row in 5 of the last 6 Grand Prix. There was a pretty good fight yesterday between the two Prima Pramac Yamaha's good buddies, of course. Toprak Razgatlioglu winning out in 13th place, just over his teammate Jack Miller. I'd like to say the Aussie joins Jack right now. Jack and Jack, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to everybody. Great to be joined by Jack ahead of this one. A top job on Friday to make what was going to be a challenging weekend, that little bit easier. It looks as though it's going to be, once again, a big pack fight between you and the other Yamahas. What's going to be key to it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's basically part of the course this year. You know, we're racing the Cheltenham, but no, thankfully yesterday we were able to finish with a couple other manufacturers behind us as well. So I mean, get away to a decent start. Like I said, job was done on Friday. We were happy with making it straight through. It makes the weekend a lot easier. We'll see what we can do now. We're trying to toss up what we do with the tyres. Kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you know what I mean. But no, looking forward to a long, tight technical, hard to pass track. So getting away off the line is going to be cool.
Those following your social media will have seen that you're not the only Miller with some talent in the family. Little daughter Pip, it was singing Frozen all throughout the night. When you try and buoy your head beneath the bubble, you're just going to have Let It Go ringing throughout your head.
Yeah. Got a few different tunes to drown it out, and she definitely wants to put on a bit of a performance, much like someone else I know.
Good luck today, Jack.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Thanks to Jack Miller and Jack and Jack's down there on the grid. It was an equal best sprint so far this season for the Australian. As I said, probably expecting another Iwata factory battle this afternoon. It was a shocker yesterday for the factory Yamaha team. Fabio Quartararo's worst sprint finish since Catalonia 3 years ago. There's been a couple of occasions previously where Quartararo's finished low. Alex Rins had his worst ever sprint. Wakey wakey is the message as Pedro Acosta shouts out to his factory KTM crew. We'll be hoping to sing himself hoarse with his first ever MotoGP celebrations in about an hour and a quarter's time. 26 MotoGP podiums now for Acosta, 14 in sprints, 12 in Grand Prix, but still seeking that first win on a main race day Sunday.
Does he have the speed? Does he have the potential to win this Grand Prix? Is it really going to be in his control? Is Pedro going to have to rely on a mistake or potentially some late race fatigue from Marc Marquez to get on terms? The best opportunity that Pedro clearly will have today to try and deny Marc Marquez a century of Grand Prix wins in all classes is at the start of the Grand Prix. Surely Pedro is going to have to take some risks if he gets a good enough start to get alongside Marc Marquez into that first corner. Track position is key around this Balaton Park circuit.
Diogo Moreira, the reigning Moto2 world champion, pole position in Moto2 right here in Balaton last year. His star already starting to shine very bright in the MotoGP World Championship this year. The 22-year-old Brazilian, 7th yesterday in the sprint. Best sprint so far of the campaign for the pro Honda LCR rider. And just as he did last weekend over in Mugello, he was by far the standout Honda rider on the MotoGP grid. And a couple of top 10s last time out, didn't he? In Mugello, 10th in the sprint, just missing out on the point scoring place. An excellent ride into the top 10 in the main Grand Prix. Big things, the big future lies ahead for the Brazilian.
We saw him at Mugello a week ago when he got himself up into third on the first lap of the sprint. The floor then got pulled out from underneath him and he plummeted down the order later on in the sprint. There were no signs of that yesterday. He very much kept Jorge Martin here on screen in sight at the end of the sprint. Moreira coming across the line for his best Saturday result so far in 7th place. This is on the back of a double top 10 in Mugello last weekend, and he is once again Honda's best bet of a result here this afternoon.
What about Jorge Martin? 4 double podiums so far this season, including last time out in what was a truly unforgettable weekend for Aprilia. What a weekend they had in Mugello, setting a new all-time top speed record, a new all-time lap record. The first ever Grand Prix victory in Mugello, first ever front row lockout. A weekend that Aprilia and Marco Bezzecchi in particular I'm not going to forget. Sprint result yesterday, 13th out of 4 top rank Vazgatlioglu was his best sprint finish. He was the top Yamaha over the line in 13th place, just over 14 seconds back of Marc Marquez on the checker flag. So once again the Yamaha's giving him about a second a lap compared to the front running pace. And Raul Fernandez, but he was close. close but no cigar in that 13-lap sprint yesterday. Did all he could to try and pressure Marco Bezzecchi into a mistake, but just coming up short in 4th place. As that young Ralph Fernandez fan was got a meet and greet yesterday with his hero. Got a special set of gloves. I think the gloves that Ralph Fernandez was wearing in the opening Grand Prix of the season in Burram. A cherished memento for that young fan.
I assume those Australian abilities are not for him, but either way, he got the experience of a lifetime yesterday to meet Ralph Fernandez. Ralph Fernandez is certainly enjoying that support in a key phase of Ralph Fernandez's season as he tries to secure a place on the grid for next season. Taking advantage yesterday of that battle ahead of him between Bezzecchi and Fermin Aldeguer. Aldeguer losing the front momentarily through the chicane of 9 and 10, which allowed Fernandez to secure that 4th place.
Fabio Quartararo is having a miserable time right now, isn't he? On the factory Yamaha. I don't think 2026 should end soon enough for the 27-year-old Frenchman. Struggling down to 17th place yesterday in that sprint. 18th he was over the line in the Italian Grand Prix last weekend. His equal worst finish in the MotoGP World Championship. 3rd time this year Quartararo has finished outside of the point scoring places. He's the only rider that's finished all 8 sprints and 7 Grand Prix so far this season, but as a front-running force, we haven't really seen too much of the 2021 World Champion.
We didn't see a great deal of Pecco Bagnaia yesterday, it's fair to say. As you can take a look at some of the updates, some of the aerodynamic tweaks that they've made on his particular Ducati so far through this season, as they constantly strive to move the game on from a technological point of view. Brilliant, certainly pushed them in that respect so far this season. Bagnaia qualified well, 5th on the grid, but he found himself on the wrong side of the racetrack, on the outside of a defensive Fermin Aldeguer, who fought hard to keep Bagnaia behind him, ended up pushing both of them wide, so Bagnaia was already down in the lower reaches of the top 10 by the end of the 1st lap in the sprint yesterday. Of course, on a circuit such as this, so difficult to recover from a poor 1st lap. Bagnaia just the 1 point yesterday, which did at least keep his 100% scoring record on a Saturday.
Can he go for 3 podiums in a row for the first time in over a year since Austin, Qatar and Jerez at the start of 2025? Who would thought we'd be saying that about the 29-year-old Italian? He used to reel off top 3 finishes like he was shelling peas, didn't he, Pecco Bagnaia, 29-year-old Italian. Back-to-back podiums for the first time in 9 years at Assen and the Sachsenring last year. What can he do Friday? He was all out of sorts, struggling with sliding and movement, a lack of stability off throttle with the rear of that factory Ducati, particularly on some of the hard acceleration zones out of turns 4 and the final corner, turn 17. We'll keep a close eye on Bagnaia. 9th he was in the Grand Prix last year, having to serve a long lap penalty for a shortcut.
It's not been an enjoyable weekend so far for Maverick Vinales. He was 19th in the sprint yesterday, and I guess slightly concerning messages coming from Maverick yesterday, saying that I still need to understand how to ride this bike, which is I guess not something you'd expect someone to be saying a year and a half into their stint with KTM. But of course, Maverick has had his physical issues so far this season, which do put his results into a little bit of context.
Well, it's 10 years and a full decade, as you saw on screens there, since the factory Ducati team went winless in the opening 7 Grand Prix of the campaign. The last time the Red Crew were celebrating in Parc Fermé on a Sunday was a Sunday that will stick in the memories for a long time at Borgo Panigale, as Marc Marquez in Japan was crowned world champion MotoGP for the 7th time. But Pecco Bagnaia's victory, his double victory in that Motegi Grand Prix, was the last time the factory Ducati team were victorious. 12 races ago, and it's 2016. Wow, what a stat earlier. 2016, the last time the factory Ducati team did not win one of our opening 7 Grand Prix. A win today, though, for Marc Marquez or Pecco Bagnaia would be the 100th for the factory Ducati squad, which would be quite a nice marriage of numbers as Marc Marquez chases his personal 100th Grand Prix success.
They've been brought up on a diet of winning over the last decade, haven't they? The famine potentially could end today. Ayagura's 79 bike, the Aprilia, of course, now in its new title-sponsored livery, set to go for this Hungarian Grand Prix. Agura, once again, going from outside the front rear of the grid. He starts 10th and hoping to have a little bit better fortune on the first lap than he did yesterday, which put paid to any hopes he had of World Championship points.
Pace to burn once again though for Agura. Once again he was lightning on circuit, second fastest rider at the end of that sprint in terms of fastest lap times. Only Marc Marquez threw in a faster lap than Agura in that sprint yesterday, but once again paying dearly for pretty average performance in qualifying. 10th on the grid, got a great record though so far this season on Sundays. Fought his way through into the top 5 in 5 of the opening 7 Grand Prix. Had a tough first experience here in Balaton last year, did Agura. Sat 11th in the sprint, which was where he finished yesterday, and of course he was 15th in the Grand Prix, just 1 point across the whole of the weekend. There's the helicopter shot there. Some contrast, isn't it, as mentioned, from the high-speed, fast and flowing Montmello circuit in Barcelona, and in particular the fastest track in Grand Prix history at Mugello last weekend, where the top speeds were almost 370 kilometres an hour. Something of a stark contrast here this weekend in Balaton, where the fastest motorcycles in Grand Prix history are barely nudging over 300 kilometres an hour.
It's a contrast that it's fair to argue that the Aprilias haven't necessarily enjoyed so far this year. They came so close to a podium lockout again, didn't they, in Mugello, with Agura chasing down Pecco Bagnaia on the last lap to try and join Bezzecchi and Martin on the podium. I think Aprilia have recognised this one isn't necessarily their weekend, even if they expect to be stronger on the medium rear tyre, which is likely to be the preferred pick in the Grand Prix this afternoon after everyone sprinted on the soft yesterday. Of course, another crucial first corner coming up for Bezzecchi as he tries to lift himself up the order.
4 wins so far this year for the World Championship leader, 6 wins in the last 9 Grand Prix, 4 wins already in the opening 7 Grand Prix. This is a PB tally in the Premier class for Bezzecchi. He won 3 times in 2023, he won 3 times last season, so that gives you a clear indicator of already what a sensational campaign Marco Bezzecchi and the factory Aprilia squad are producing. He did qualify on the front row grid here last year, 7th in the sprint. Certainly was better yesterday inside the top 3, and he was 3rd in the main Grand Prix. And nothing for Marc Marquez and Pedro Acosta. I think this Balaton Park Grand Prix last year was around that time where Marco Bezzecchi really did start to stand up and show that he was going to pose the main opposition in the second half of last year's campaign to dominant world champion Marc Marquez.
Yeah, he came hot on the heels of Austria, where he led for the first half of the races. He then went from here over to Barcelona and Misano, where of course Bezzecchi won the sprints and then pushed Marc Marquez all the way in the Grand Prix itself. What a 12 months it has been for Marco Bezzecchi and the factory Aprilia team. 20 points Bezzecchi's lead in the World Championship, so it's unlikely that he will lose the World Championship lead today. But on a weekend where once again Martin has been ever so slightly on his back foot, can Bezzecchi take full advantage to strengthen his position at the top of the World Championship and head into a crucial phase of the season?
Just love that. I mean, on a sighting lap, Bez is getting his elbow down pretty much through the final chicane. I mean, Marco Bezzecchi's sighting lap in Balaton will be a darn sight quicker than most people's fastest laps here around this Grand Prix of Hungary circuit. Bez always.
Soon you will be the number 1, it said on that banner. Someone who's hoping to change that is Jorge Martin, who's on the grid with Jack.
Yeah, great to be joined by Jorge. So often in 2026, Jorge, we've seen some pretty special Sunday comebacks from you in the Aprilias. Are we going to be treated to more of the same today?
Yeah, well, I hope for sure I will try to put a strong pace. To be clever is not our best weekend so far, but I think still we can remediate with a solid result. So it's a bit the target. Let's try to do a great start in the beginning, and then step by step. The race is very long. I will try to come back.
Good luck, I told you.
He had a belting right here last year, didn't he, Jorge Martin? Thanks very much, Jack, and thanks to the 2024 World Champion, 16th to 4th in Balaton last August was Martin. He didn't get the memo about it being hard to overtake around this Grand Prix of Hungary venue. 2nd in Goiânia, 2nd in Texas, the fantastic win in Le Mans, and then 2nd most recently last time out in Mugello. He has found his top 3 touch once again, hasn't he, Jorge Martin? That's why he's only 20 points behind Bezzecchi going into this Hungarian rounders. Marc Marquez then on course for what would be his 9th pole position, sprint win and Grand Prix win treble. He fires away from pole.
Here's the grid. Marc Marquez, Pedro Acosta and Fermin Aldeguer is your front row, and the initial information is that they're all going for the soft rear tyre. Certainly Marquez and Acosta ran that in warm-up this morning. Gian Antonio 4 from Bagnaia, who is at the moment heading for the medium rear. Benteke starts 6th on the soft. Fernandez 7th from Jorge Martin, and Luca Marini 2 others on the medium rear tyre. Certainly appears to be a big split in terms of the tyre strategy. Iagura lines up 10th from Diogo Moreira and Jack Miller. Juan Mir, Enea Bastianini and Fabio Quartararo are together on row 5. On row 6 we find the very impressive Iker Lecuona, 16th for the Gresini Ducati team. We're expecting his the rider he's replacing Alex Marquez back in Brno. Brad Binder and Toprak join him on the 6th row. Frankie Morbidelli, Alex Rins and Maverick Vinales on row 7, with the grid completed by a Balaton Park debutant. First visit here for Cal Crutchlow.
Yeah, Michelin did report yesterday tyre wear not an issue, very low here at Balaton Park. So the information coming out from Piero Taramasso's media debrief last night was riders who want to complete the distance on the soft rears, no problem, they will go the distance. I think a few riders yesterday were saying they didn't go for the medium in the sprint just because it takes sort of 4 or 5 laps to really come in and really get up to full working temperature. Interesting though to see quite a big split, as I saw from that grid graphic. Let's go and get some tyre info from down on the grid though with Jack.
Yeah, there's going to be some very late changes on the grid. There's a lot of games being played here. As you can just see on the screen then, there are tyres being thrown left, right and centre. As it stands currently, 60% of the grid opting for the softer option rear tyre, 40% going for the medium option rear tyre, but that could all change. There's going to be some very last-minute calls here. As we saw yesterday, as the riders told us, the opening 3 or 4 laps of the race, there's a big advantage of the soft, but then of course you've got to manage it in those final 4 to 5 laps. We know how important track position is here. Are riders going to be willing to give up the advantage you have at the medium at the end of the race to make sure you get track position at the start with that soft rear tyre? It's going to be fascinating to see who goes with what.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. Right on cue, we've seen Michelin engineers hovering around the factory Ducatis. This was the exact quote released by Michelin Motorsport boss Piero Taramasso last night. Tyre wear is low here at Balaton Park. Tomorrow, as in today's Grand Prix, it will be possible for riders who wish to do so to complete the 26 laps of the Grand Prix on soft tyres at the rear. It will all depend on each rider's strategy, but the option is there. That was the view from Michelin here in Balaton Park last year. Why the Trackhouse riders are going to go forward. Ralph Fernandez and Iagura look to charge through the field. Let's get the thoughts of Davide Bribbi at the box for Jack.
Yeah, great to be joined by Davide. We were just saying it seems like it's going to be one of those days, 50-50, when it looks to the rear option, rear tyre. At the moment, what are Raul and I leaning towards, and why have they made that decision?
Yeah, it's a decision about the tire. At the moment, we like the soft tire. I know it's a little bit different choice from the majority, but the both rider at the moment, we are convinced about the soft tire. Let's see if we confirm until the last minute, but looks like now, you know, it's a time where you try to understand what the other are doing, but looks like the majority is going in medium. Let's see. I mean, we think it's not, there's no wrong choice somehow. It's a different plus and minus, so you have to put together and take a decision.
What are the chances of Raul and I today? Raul with a great ride in the sprint yesterday. So often we see I make progress through the field on a Sunday, but we saw just how difficult it is to overtake here. So what are their chances?
Yeah, no, I think we have a chance. Yesterday I had a problem at the start. He lost a lot of position on turn 4. So if we are able to keep some position or even improve a little bit, then we wait for the high final race, hopefully, even if it's the soft. So quite challenging, quite interesting to see what we can do by the end. Maybe with a soft tire compared to the other on a medium. It's very good on management, but today he has to be very good. He has to be as usual. So let's see, interesting.
Absolutely. Good luck, Davide.
Thank you, bye.
Well, we certainly hope it's going to be an interesting Grand Prix of Hungary, because I think it is fair to say that yesterday's sprint didn't quite live up to our pre-sprint expectations. That, of course, was thanks to the utter brilliance and the utter dominance of world champion Marc Marquez. So we heard it, their track house, both Val Fernandez and Niagara, their preference, they're favouring the soft. We'll keep a close eye. Could be a real tactical, strategic race, this one coming up.
The man who led the field on a merry dance yesterday. New tyre choice, so Marc Marquez would appear to have changed from the soft rear. That tyre that you saw being hastily brought onto the grid by the factory Ducati team clearly was a medium rear tyre to be fitted into Marc Marquez. Is that potentially just a sign of his confidence that he doesn't feel he needs the benefit of the soft rear tyre in those early stages? Does that potentially lead Pedro Acosta to gamble on the soft to try and seize the early initiative from Marc?
So Marco Bezzecchi getting himself focused and in the zone, as you can see from the clock underneath the gantry there on the grid. We are under 15 minutes away from the start of round 8. Yeah, the crowd enjoying the local dance ensemble before we get ready for the grid ceremony. And now then, Pedro Acosta, he was second in yesterday's sprint to Marc Marquez. He was second in last year's Grand Prix to Marc Marquez. Can he better and topple the 93 this afternoon? Let's get the thoughts of his crew chief, Paul Trevathan, with Jack.
Yeah, that's the big question, Bertie. A great ride by Pedro yesterday. Just firstly, Paul, soft rear, medium rear, it looks like the big question, with people taking different options and different plans.
Yeah, to be honest, they've been really, really close. You know, it's all about more about the warm-up and maybe some stability. So it depends on which way you're suffering, you know. So I think we stick with the choice we had yesterday and we go for it.
Marc going for the medium. Does that mean in those opening laps an opportunity to attack?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've seen the medium take a few laps to come up, you know. It's all about how they can bring this tyre up on the warm-up lap and see where we go from there.
In terms of the battle itself, obviously Pedro is out here to fight for victory. From what he saw yesterday, do you think you can close the gap to Marc?
Yeah, I mean, we got a little bit caught out at the beginning of the race. You know, Marc's pace was fantastic at the very start of the race. You know, with the wind changes and some stuff, he struggled a little bit to make his markers, and then once he settled down, he was fine. So it's all about getting that feeling now at the beginning of the race and be able to push from the beginning.
Good luck, Paul. Have a good one.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Pedro Acosta and the factory KTM team then sticking with their guns. They're going medium front, soft rear, just as was their pick in yesterday's sprint. Thanks as always, Jack. Thanks to Acosta's crew chief, Paul Trevathan. There's lots of rubber wrapped in tyre rubbers being swapped throughout this MotoGP grid. Just some late discussions here going on between Marco Bezzecchi and his crew chief Francesco Venturato. Are they potentially pondering a late switch? Acosta though, got to go for that. Go for broke. He's going to stick to with the soft rear tyre. See if he can make it work early on and then keep all comers at bay.
Yeah, with teams no doubt watching what each other are doing. So once they've seen the information that Marc Marquez has switched over to the medium, surely that makes Pedro Acosta's mind up that he's got to go the other way and try and attack Marc Marquez at a point where he could potentially be vulnerable in terms of the grip from his rear tyre, with Marc Marquez also potentially likely to tyre late on. Maybe it's important to get ahead of him and force Marc Marquez to go on the attack. From a Prix point of view, well, generally in Grand Prix this season, the softest rear tyre available, they've not necessarily had the ultimate performance. We've seen sprints largely won by Ducatis, but can Aprilia strike back? Can Bezzecchi match or better his podium from yesterday? Paolo Benares with Jack.
Yeah, so often, as I said to Jorge just a few moments ago, we've seen Sunday comebacks from Aprilia. No matter where they are on the grid, you always seem to find pace, Paolo, but this place in particular hasn't been easy for you. Talk us through the rear tyre choice. It's going to be an interesting one, and the chances of both guys.
Absolutely, Jack. The key point here is to understand which will be the correct tyre, for sure. Both the soft and the medium could achieve the maximum lap of the long distance race. For sure, it is not a matter of wear, it is a matter of feeling in the last part of the race. It is necessary to manage, if you choose the soft, it's necessary to manage very carefully in the first part, but then probably you can have some more grip. But it's necessary to understand, it is not easy. To be fully honest with you, we are now still evaluating for each the four rider we have, which is the best option.
Thanks, Paolo. Good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks, as always, to Aprilia boss, Paolo Bonora. Do you go medium? Do you go soft? That's the big call, isn't it? The rider of the race. No surprises in pain. A fair chunk of your appreciation at home as well. Well, on Thursday in the Prix press conference, I asked him if there was any hope this weekend, the sprint of the Grand Prix. His answer was very short: no. Forget it. And you've proven you've proven yourself.
Who is going to get stronger and stronger physically as we go through the year. We've asked ourselves just how good we're able to find out until we've seen Marc Marquez at his peak on it. We think we're going to see the answer in the second half of the season. Of course, still a long way to go. Still.
Victory. Will it be the Factory Ducati team's 100th Grand Prix victory? Can Pedro Acosta finally break his winning duck in the MotoGP World Championship? That's all coming up in about 10 minutes time, but we will take a short pause here in the commentary box for the national anthem of Hungary.
National anthem beautifully performed. Next we race with 26 laps ahead of us around this technical Balaton Park circuit. A test of your skill, a test of your concentration with the chicanes coming at you quickly. So difficult to nail the perfect lap, as Jack Miller said on Friday afternoon. Well, 26.9 on perfect laps are going to be required. You're going to collect 25 points and Grand Prix victory, potentially awaiting at the end of it all for Marc Marquez, a 100th Grand Prix victory. Is Pedro Acosta potentially going to deny him that century and potentially playing his first in the Premier class from the middle of the front row this afternoon?
Well, earlier on today we had our 300th Moto2 Grand Prix in history, with Fabio Di Gianantonio repeats his success of Catalunya easily. We'll have our 300th MotoGP success for Italy. Well then, can there be another Balaton treble in the making for Marc Marquez? Let's get some thoughts from the boss, Davide Toll. Let's see with Jack.
Yeah, huge 45 minutes ahead for Marc Marquez after his sprint win yesterday. What's going to be key to this race, Davide? We've seen some last-minute changes for the rear tyre on the grid, but looks like Marc going with medium. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's the last decision. There are some doubts because nobody knows which tire will be the best, but anyway, each one of us, all the riders makes his own choice, and we will see on the end of the race who's take the best decision. But anyway, now
now we are worried only to the body side of Mark, because we don't know what it will be his reaction for this long race.
Pedro going with the soft rear, it sounds like, for the moment. How much of a concern is that? He's clearly going to try and attack in those first 3 laps.
Yeah, for sure. After yesterday, Pedro realized that he needs to attack in the beginning of the race, but this is the kind of strategy that each rider each one has his own. So we'll see.
Thanks, Andy. Good luck.
Thanks very much, Jack. Thanks to Ducati boss Davide Toronto. There's some big calls being made right down there on that Balaton Park grid, particularly involving our top 2 in the World Championship. Marco Bezzecchi has opted to switch. He's gone from the soft rear tyre up to the harder option, the medium compound. Vice versa, the opposite. Jorge Martin, his closest championship rival, 20 points splitting the pair of them from the Inawali factory going into this Chapter 8 of 2026. Martin has copied Acosta. He has gone down from the medium to the soft rear tyre. These are big calls.
Yes, we also saw Fermin Aldeguer and Fabio Gian Antonio have gone from soft to medium, so they're going the same route as Marc Marquez. So we'll get full confirmation around about the time the warm-up lap gets underway, but that would leave Pedro Acosta as the sole rider, I make it, on the front 2 rows of the grid, who will be on the soft rear tyre unless he changes. And surely, with the incentive of the early lead and chasing a first MotoGP victory, surely the big incentive for Acosta is to go bold and go for the soft.
We've said what we've heard from Michelin. They say that there is no durability issues, no endurance issues or concerns with that soft rear tyre, which has been an issue for KTM over the last 18 months or so. They've just run out of grip in the crucial late stages. It's been a real bugbear of Acosta and the Austrian factory recently. They've been improving in that area, but Acosta then on the soft. Marc Marquez, 104th time in his Grand Prix career. He starts from pole position. 76 times in MotoGP. 99 Grand Prix wins. He's been stuck on that 99 since Misano last year. Of course, it was pretty much to the day 1 year, or 16 years ago now, since his winning journey started in the MotoGP World Championship when he was victorious in the Mugello 125cc race back in 2010. 5 minutes we are then away from the start of this Grand Prix of Hungary in 2026. As soon as we have the bang up to date latest information on the tyre picks from Michelin, we will bring it to you live here in the commentary box. But it certainly looks like, as he goes through his regular fist bumping routine, Acosta on that front row on the soft rear.
It's around about a 300-metre run down to that first corner. How much will be decided in that chase to turn 1?
So Acosta is the outlier then on that front row. First front row start of the campaign for Fermin Aldeguer. He's gone medium on the Michelin tyres. Acosta then second on the grid. Can he win for the first time in MotoGP? And can Marc Marquez win for the 100th time in his Grand Prix career? The world champion on pole! Well, the reigning world champion, factory Ducati star Marc Marquez enjoyed a sensational sprint Saturday here at the Balaton Park circuit. The world champion, hungry for more success in the Grand Prix of Hungary. He's already claimed pole position number 76 in his MotoGP career yesterday. in that record-breaking Q2 section. He absolutely dominated the field. He thrashed the pack in yesterday's 13-lap TSO sprint. 3 sprint wins so far for Marc Marquez. On the front row of the grid he goes with Pedro Acosta and Fermin Aldeguer. Acosta's quest for his first MotoGP victory. Well, he'll be armed with Michelin's soft rear tyre. How decisive, how crucial could that decision be? We know Jorge Martin on the factory Aprilia, he also has opted for the soft rear tyre. Coming into this 8th chapter of 2026, what's been a stellar season so far for Aprilia. Marco Bezzecchi, 20 points clear he is in the World Championship standings. Let's go and get some latest time information from Jack down on the grid.
So the big news is the only rider on the front 2 rows of the grid to go for the softer option rear tyre, as you guys have been saying, is Pedro Acosta. Marquez, Aldeguer, Di Gianantonio, Bagnaia and Bezzecchi all going medium rear. Keep an eye on Ralph Fernandez and Jorge Martin from row 3. They also go with the soft rear tyre.
Thanks very much, Jack. Looking forward to this battle Balaton then in 2026. Marc Marquez then, he won the Grand Prix here last year by over 4 seconds. Acosta and Bezzecchi were completing the podium. Yesterday in the sprint, it was that same trio that took the medals here in round 8. Marc Marquez from Acosta from Bezzecchi. Marco Bezzecchi, the leader of the World Championship. He's established that 20-point lead over his teammate Jorge Martin, thanks to a truly stunning start to the campaign. 4 wins in the opening 7 Sundays, already his highest win tally so far in his MotoGP career. Warm-up lap then is about to be completed here at Balaton. Coming to pole position is Marc Marquez, a lover of anti-clockwise tracks. 34 of his 73 MotoGP wins have come on predominantly left-hand dominated circuits. He loves the Sachsenring, he loves Aragon, he loves Austin, he loves Valencia, he loves Phillip Island, and he's fallen in love with Balaton Park once again here this season. He did the treble last August. Can he repeat that brilliance here once again today? Acosta and Aldeguer, big opponents on the front row of the grid. Green flag then has cleared at the back of the grid. It's lights out and racing in MotoGP here in the Grand Prix of Hungary. Big wheel spin there for Marc Marquez as he got off the line. Is he going to try and toughen out the brakes with Pedro Acosta on the run to the first corner? Sideways goes Acosta and Jorge Martin out of shape, out of control. Aldeguer has been cleaned out, and so too has Marco Bezzecchi. Well, this is hallmarks of Motegi, doesn't it? The Japanese Grand Prix sprint. Blissfully aware of all the chaos, all the carnage behind them. Marquez and Acosta going way at the front. Well, that was a big blunder by Jorge Martin.
Yeah, it looked like it was all started by Jorge Martin. So Bezzecchi, Aldeguer, Gianantonio and Fernandez are also out. So it's the top 2 on the grid away. Bagnaia has just cruised through all the chaos up into 3rd place.
3 of the 4 Aprilias out. What was the big meeting, the big message to all the Aprilia riders pre the Italian Grand Prix Mugello? Let's race with respect. Let's race hard but fair. I mean, Martin just made a massive mistake there. We saw it from Quartararo last year in the sprint at the front then, with some major contenders out. The top 3 in the World Championship are out of this Grand Prix.
And Jorge Martin might well find himself in some hot water. We'll have a look at another replay, but from the overhead shot, it looked like Martin was completely out of control on the way into turn 1. So it's Marquez from Acosta, Bagnaia runs 3rd, Marini's up to 4th. We've got Miller and Quartararo in the top 6 ahead of Moreira. So the Yamahas of Miller and Quartararo dodged that mayhem beautifully into turn 1.
More friendly fire at Aprilia. It was Martin on Bezzecchi at the first corner in the Motegi sprint last year. Martin had his troubles with Ralph Fernandez, then he recently in Barcelona. They keep tripping each other up, the Aprilias, in 2026. Over the line at the end of a dramatic and rather controversial first lap here in the Grand Prix of Hungary. It's Marc Marquez has a 1/4 second lead over Pedro Acosta.
Oh, it's a slick turn 1, isn't it? It's definitely on the outside of the racetrack as Marini sails wide. So he's given up 4th now to Jack Miller, who's come through. So let's have another look. So watch from the 3rd row of the grid. Jorge Martin, who starts from 8th position. He already gets a good start. He goes across the front of Luca Marini already. And you'll see here as he grabs the brakes, already now completely out of control. Straight into Bezzecchi. Aldeguer into Gianantonio, obviously with nowhere to go. Fernandez also skittled out.
Oh, and Acosta's lunging on the inside of Marc Marquez on the brakes into turn 5. So Pedro Acosta then leads here in Balaton for the third time. You know what, Marti might have been in trouble anyway for the weave, the aggressive weave on Luca Marini. Properly chopped across the nose of the Italian as they fired off the grid. He was desperate there, wasn't he, to try and make up places and capitalise on that Michelin soft rear tyre choice he made. He had his hands in the air, Eddie Martin, but clearly the incident that turn 1 is under investigation. Only one person was to blame for that one.
5 huge contenders then either out or delayed. Gian Antonio did rejoin the race, but he's at the back of the field in 18th place. And Pedro Acosta doing what we thought Pedro Acosta had to do in this Grand Prix, which is attack Marc Marquez early.
Yeah, this was lovely. It set up Marquez. Marquez was so good in the sprint yesterday coming out of turn 4. But with that extra grip, that extra acceleration grip with that soft rear tyre on that KTM, Pedro Acosta was just able to ease alongside Marc on the brakes into turn 5. So Pedro Acosta then leads here into turn 1, currently under investigation, as we have mentioned. Bagnaio's quickest rider on circuit. Some speed this early on from the double world champion. 139.293 from Pecco.
Well, he's chasing a third consecutive Sunday podium. The red carpet's been rolled out for him today for a podium by the incident triggered by Jorge Martin at the start. You can see he's already out of control about 50 metres before he arrives at the first corner and plays skittles with the head pin that he took out, being his teammate Marco Bezzecchi.
That was horrible for Bez. He was stuck in between a couple of bikes there. No wonder he was slow to get to his feet. He took a real bashing there, did the World Championship leader, a real pounding. There's going to be some stern conversations, some pretty fraught conversations behind the scenes in the factory at Prix garage. I mean, a spectacular own goal once again from the Nirali factory as poor old Marco Bezzecchi hobbles back into the garage. You have to feel so sorry for Bez. That's the second time now in what the space of 6 or 7 months that Jorge Martin has cleaned him out in the first corner incident.
Yeah, he was in a pretty good position going into that first corner. He was going to come out roughly in a similar position to where he ended the first lap yesterday. The Hondas have come out of this smelling of roses, you have to say, because Marini, despite that mistake, is still 5th. We've got Moreira behind him 6th, and then we've got Mir, who's just past Quartararo. He's now running in 8th place. 3 Hondas in the top 8.
Physically and mentally a painful Sunday for Marco Bezzecchi. You can see him there gingerly walking into the back of the garage. Acosta's trying to get on with it. He's trying to really make hay while the sun shines with that soft rear tyre. He's 3/4 of a second now clear of Marc Marquez. He's in the 38s. This is blistering early pace this from Acosta. On 138.865. He's almost 8/10 clear now of Marc. Bagnaia third. Jack Miller is in 4th place for Prima Tamakama. Marini 5th. Those lot all capitalising on the real early first corner chaos.
Quartararo still having to defend. This time it's Agura, the one at Prix left in this Grand Prix, who's now at the inside of him. Agura clearly was delayed too, because right at the top of the picture there, Dici has got himself up into 13th place for 3 world champions.
They top the 7th. Miller in the top 10 with Bastianini and Binder. Most MotoGP wins then. Valentino Rossi looking over his shoulder now as Marc Marquez captures his 74th Grand Prix success. Top at Razgatlioglu takes a best of 11 just behind Brad Binder. Points for Fabio Di Gianantonio. Wasn't his day at all, was it, as he was involved in that first corner chaos instigated by Jorge Martin. But take a bow. In Ducati's centenary year, Marc Marquez reaches a century of wins. The factory Ducati team reach a century of wins. This World Championship defence is now well and truly up and running.
Yeah, on a day where Aprilia imploded, Marc Marquez explodes into life in this 2026 season, a season blighted so much by his physical condition, the injury to his shoulder, another operation, a broken foot, but you can never break the spirit of Marc Marquez. I think the adrenaline is now starting to seep out of him and the fatigue and the pain is starting to kick in, but he will have the reward of a 100th Winners' Trophy. Pedro Acosta pulls alongside him, teammates next year of course at the factory Ducati team. What a show they put on today, but the victor for the 100th time is Marc Marquez.
He's got the special flag as well to celebrate. 100 wins for one incredible talent. Let's go and get the thoughts of the boss, Davide Tolozzi, with Jack.
What a day, what a weekend for the factory Ducati squad, Davide. 9 months on from that crash in Indonesia, he is once again a Grand Prix winner. What does that say? again about the character of Marc Marquez.
That he deserves the 9th title he has on the pocket and maybe the 10th.
Do you think that's possible this year now? Is that the full focus?
We still keep every race as a test and a training one, so we'll see.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Fantastic job. As mentioned, Giacomo Agostini, 122 Grand Prix wins. Valentino Rossi, 115 Grand Prix wins. But in his 291st start, Marc Marquez becomes just the third rider in history to reach the magic milestone of a century. Everything he's been through, all of the trials and tribulations, but he just keeps coming back for more, doesn't he? You can't keep a good man down for too long, unfortunately. It's a stat which Pedro Acosta won't thank us for reminding me, because now he is, in terms of podium finishes without a win, the highest number in MotoGP history. He was level with Colin Edwards on 12. He now moves on to 13. Great place there between Diogo Moreira and Nicola Corona. Boy,
Corona was
those
punching the air when he crossed the line, so happy he was with 7th.
They had great Sundays. Brilliant day. Nicola Corona, well, less than a week ago, he was testing the Honda World Superbike in Aragon when he got the phone call. Fancy replacing Alex Marquez? Good job, he was able to answer that call. 5th place then for Luca Marini. That equals his best factory Honda result. Hasn't had too many top 6s for HRC, has he? Has Luca, has Pedro Acosta there, 2nd in that Grand Prix. No points for the top 2 in the World Championship after Jorge Martin's big mistake into that first corner. So the gap between the two, putting at the top of the standings, remains at 20 points. But the big mover in round 8 of this year's championship clearly has been Marc Marquez, who reigns supreme once again. For the 2nd year in a row, he has been utterly brilliant here in Balaton.
Why is that? As the track spreads out, if you're right at the very back of the grid, like Cadillac or Aston, they might just come in.
Thank you so much, Bruce. We are just being manoeuvred out of the way here as tyres coming off, and then on Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes on pole position. He just gave you a little fist bump there. What did you say to him?
No, we're just, I know Kimi since he started even before F4, so he seems really cool. He seems in the zone. He knows what, remember, he's been winning. So when you're being winning, you come here and you know what to do. The pressure is not as much. You know what I mean? In a way, you know, Max, especially Lewis, they're desperate for a massive result. You know, Lewis wants to win. So when you're Kimi, where you go? You know, you want to stay right, protected into turn 1, and hope if somebody gets a good run, they need to go around you and make it a little harder. So we'll see.
Kimi Antonelli is, at the moment, a driver completely operating without fear. Such courage, such fearlessness. It's incredible to watch. Toto yesterday saying that's part of his age. That he simply doesn't have that pressure and the weight of experience yet that perhaps George Russell has.
Yeah, he hasn't had the failures and the difficulty. Yes, last year was difficult, but it was his first year. He hasn't gone with all the losses and things. So at the moment, they just keep building confidence. And if somebody doesn't stop him, he's going to win everything.
The atmosphere is ramping up and up and up here. All right, you're Kimi Antonelli. How do you win this off the start? You're Max Verstappen. What are you doing? And if you're the Ferraris, what are you doing?
If you're Kimi, just regular execution. You don't need to do anything fancy. You don't need to overthink it. Max, he needs to pray that they get a good start because they're inconsistent. Lewis is just hoping to get one of those magical Ferrari starts. If he gets one of those magical jumps, oh my God, turn 1 is going to be insane.
Eyes on turn 1. It is going to be absolutely astonishing. The start is absolutely crucial, and after that, it's down to strategy. Can this teenager do it when Pablo Montoya
said, watch the temperature of the tires.
A name for the win then? Antonelli to win his first ever Monaco Grand Prix. Or will Max start? The fast starting Ferraris will be bearing down. And this is Monaco. The walls are tight. There's jeopardy around every twist and turn of these streets of Monte Carlo. It's the one that they all want to win. It's the jewel. This is the Monaco Grand Prix.
Lots of stories.
And the Canadian Grand Prix is underway. Lando Norris to the lead of the Grand Prix.
McLaren's tyre strategy blunder.
McLaren gambled and it came undone.
Put both the tyre cars out of the points.
Absolute disaster for McLaren.
Mercedes wheel-to-wheel racing.
Oh, they're going to make contact. This is delirious racing.
Right, mate, it wouldn't be over. This one is not done yet.
George Russell is retiring from the race lead.
We retreating to old rivals, racing hard.
We can do this, guys.
All of which was concluded by a 4th consecutive win for Kimi Antonelli. Joined on the podium by 11 whole World Championships. And now leading the 2026 chase by 43 points. The Gilles Villeneuve was a street-style circuit. This is the street circuit, an entirely unique challenge where pole position is so important. But how to win in Monaco? Stay out of trouble at the start, stay out of the barriers until the end. The 2026 Monaco Grand Prix is next. You have to push past that conscious level. You have to get past thinking. You've got to shut your eyes and see if you make it to the other side. The words of Lando Norris, the Formula One world champion, to welcome you to a venue that moves a driver like nowhere else. Good afternoon and welcome to the Monaco Grand Prix. It's round 6 of the Formula One World Championship in 2026. Kimi Antonelli is on pole for the first time here. He said he was shaking after that lap yesterday. But on Grand Prix Sunday, you are welcome to our presentation of this famous race, the Formation Lap. It's coming your way in a few moments' time around this storied circuit that runs to 2 miles. We'll have 78 laps, as you see. And to minute overtaking that we got last year, just 4 on-track passes, but the cars are different, the regulations are different, and it's the softest tyres in the range for those who are contesting the Monaco Grand Prix. The C5, the C4 and the C3 tyres are the compounds available. By the Mediterranean Sea, it's a stunning day for motor racing, and this is the grid.
At the back, we've got Fernando Alonso next to his teammate Lance Stroll. 42 Grand Prix in a row. He's been the lead, Aston Martin. Next up is Valtteri Bottas. He's in 20th and he goes next to Oliver Behrman. Got unlucky with the timing of the red flag yesterday. Sergio Perez is in 18th. He's next to Esteban Ocon. Couldn't believe he got pipped and got knocked out in Q1. Gabriel Bortoleto is in trouble right now. They pushed him back from green light and he is mired in the garage. Albert Lindblad is next. He's 15th. Franco Colapinto is 14th. Then it is Nico Hulkenberg. He's slipping back after fine form in practice. All Williams row with Sainz behind Alex Albon, who was close to getting into Q3, but not close enough. Liam Lawson in 10th, Pierre Gasly in 9th for Alpine, winning the battle of the best of the rest. Then come the McLarens. They are celebrating a huge milestone, but from 8th and 7th, not what they were hoping for. Next up, it is George Russell searching for pace, and for the second year in a row, Isaac Hadjar is P5. Then comes Charles Leclerc, who came all in. He was desperate to try and find his way to pole. He hit the barriers. He starts 4th. Lewis Hamilton is in contention from 3rd. And what a battle between these two. Max Verstappen in 2nd. 400ths of a second back from Kimi Antonelli on pole for the first time in the Principality, shaking afterwards and hoping to convert it into his first win here in Italy's first win around these streets since the Arno Trivia in 2004. In the commentary box, good afternoon, I'm Alex Jakes. Next to me, Jolyon Palmer, but first of all we say hello to a two-time winner of this great race. DC, tell us how to do it. How do you win the Monaco Grand Prix?
Well, qualifying at the front is definitely going to make your afternoon a lot easier. Ironically, my 2 wins didn't come from pole position. The 1 pole position I had, I managed to get put to the back because the car didn't start on the green flag lap. Hopefully we won't see any of that shenanigans here this afternoon, but getting to that first corner first is hugely important because you get your elbows out and control the race.
Jolyon, with these new regs, with the variation of starts that we've seen this year for Kimi Antonelli, could it be one of the most explosive getaways in modern times in Monaco?
It's never been harder to get off the line from pole position, I think, especially for a driver that has barely had a start this year without losing position. It's the shortest run to the braking zone from pole position. It's curved as well, so it's even less distance for those on the inside. So Kimi's got to just keep basically half a car alongside Max and throw it in there. But his starts have been erratic, trying to get the turbo boost going, trying to not bog it down, trying to get your clutch paddle release and your throttle very steady. It's complicated at the best of times. When you're a 19-year-old on pole in Monaco with everything to lose, I imagine it's been pretty tricky.
Yeah, look, that overhead shot and the rear shot we just saw, Jolyon, shows perfectly how complicated this start-finish straight is. It's not straight.
And that will mean that Lewis Hamilton in 3rd is sort of disproportionately closer to Max Verstappen as well to try and sneak into the fight in a very fast-starting Ferrari.
Green light on the gantry, the formation lap in progress as the field leave the grid and try to get some tyre temperature in what is, for the top 15 on the grid, medium Pirelli tyres. We're expecting a 1-stop to go from the medium to the soft today, and that will be the direction of travel. The shortest lap of the year, degradation not really a concern. Lewis Hamilton next to Charles Leclerc on the order, on the grid in front of us. Can he work with his teammate? Will they work together? Remember that Ferrari started the year really, really strong. You've got the medium to the hard, you've got the soft to the hard as the one-stop strategy. We've got a high thread, of course, with the walls of the safety car being deployed, but ultimately, one thing that Jolyon, you said to me earlier this week, and it seems so obvious, but I want to reiterate to everyone, it's so easy to crash around here.
Well, people kept asking what is the big challenge? I know, I get it, Monaco's great, but why is it so hard? Let's just break it down. It's so narrow. You're driving Formula 1 cars. These things are incredibly quick. My lesson was you can crash on loads of different corners.
Yeah, and I think the average speed last year in the Grand Prix was like 90 odd miles an hour. I think it was over 100 miles an hour in qualifying. So an average of over 90 miles an hour sums up the speed they're going, even if it looks tight and twisty.
And it is a venue where everyone wants the win on their CV. You saw the banner for McLaren there in the tunnel. The team created by Bruce, established by Teddy Mayer, elevated into the McLaren team that we understand today by Ron Dennis, and in recent times the great Mark elevated back to the title by Zach Brown and Andrea Stella. Congratulations to all.